And so the question is like, what is the test to become president of the United States? And it turns out there's all of this like media noise and like endorsements. There's really only one, maybe two tests involved. Can you win the caucus in Iowa, and can you win the primary in New Hampshire in February 2020? Mm-hmm. Now, I'm just going to break this down for people who are listening because, it makes people realize what's possible. So Iowa is a state of 3.1 million people, but only 5.6% of them participated in the Democratic caucus last time. 171,000 out of 3.1 million. So let's make that number 200,000. How many people do we think are going to run for president as a Democrat this cycle?
A few dozen, 20, 30.
Yes. So if let's say you have 20 to 30 candidates and you have 200,000 votes, mm-hmm. How many Iowans do I need to get on my side saying we should get $1,000 a month dividend in order for me to finish in the top 3 in 2020? Maybe 25 to 30,000 Iowans.
Yeah.
Yeah, about 30,000 Iowans on top 3. So when people go through all this and say like, hey, long shot candidate, blah, 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 none of it matters if we can get 30,000 Iowans on board with the idea that them getting $1,000 a month is a good idea. Mm-hmm. And when I go to Iowa, I'm already polling in Iowa. I'm already tied with Kirsten Gillibrand in Iowa as of last year, because I go to Iowa and I ask people, have you noticed stores closing in your towns? And they say yes. And then I say, why is that? And then they say Amazon, and I'm like, that's right. And what are you going to do about it? And then they look at me, they're like, I can do something about it. And I was like, well, if you make me president, I'm going to bring back $1,000 a month to you, and you can rebuild your Main Street economy and give your kids a reason to stay. Mm-hmm. And that gets 20% of them thinking, yeah, like that is about the only thing we can do. Mm-hmm. So I'm just presenting this as like a vision as to how change is possible, much, much faster than people think.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Yeah. So while you're in Iowa, because that's interesting, the idea of a universal basic income is something I know that's been floated before, but a lot of people are hesitant about it. What are some of the strategies you're using to talk to Iowans about why it's important to do this?
Well, I talked to them about the fact that Trump's our president because we got rid of 4 million manufacturing jobs, including 40,000 in Iowa. So they saw that happen. Mm-hmm. And then you say, hey, what happened to the manufacturing jobs we're about to do to your retail jobs, your call center jobs, your food service jobs, your truck driving jobs, all of which are huge employment categories in Iowa. Mm-hmm. And so then I say, look, it may seem far out or socialist to you, but if you look at our history, Thomas Paine was for it, Martin Luther King was for it, Richard Nixon was for it, Milton Friedman was for it, 1,000 economists were for it. And it's been law in one state, Alaska, for the last 37 years, where everyone in that state gets between $1,000 and $2,000 a year.
Right.
And they look at me and they're like, that happens? And I'm like, yeah, you can move to Alaska and you get that money too. Really? And they pay for it with oil. Mm-hmm. And then I ask them, what is the oil of the 21st century? And then they scratch their head for a second, and then someone says technology, and I'm like, that's right. What we did for Alaska with oil, we can do for you and the rest of the country with technology.
And isn't Norway already doing something like this anyway? Because Norway is like a massive oil producing country, and the citizens have like a really, really nice life there. I mean, I don't know exactly what they're doing, but I know that there's some sort of system that enables them to all have a very comfortable life because of the amount of oil that's government money.
Yeah, the Nordic countries, Northern European countries like Denmark, they either have incredibly robust social safety nets or something close to the equivalent of a universal basic income right now.
Right.
But as you can imagine, in the U.S., certainly Alaska is a much more, relevant example for them because, sure. And also Alaska is like a deep red conservative state. So then it makes them think like this is not somehow some like far left socialist.
God forbid a Democrat should be supporting what's happening in a Republican state.
Right.
Yeah. Someone called me the shuffler, where like I shuffle the orientation.
I'd like to see that like live.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like libertarians are coming out for me. Many Trump voters are coming up to me and saying, I voted for Donald Trump. I'll vote for you because you're an outsider. You want to shake things up. You're talking about the same problems he was talking about, but you have real solutions.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. You stated on your website that Americans should be able to vote via their mobile phones with verification done via blockchain. how would you sell that to the older generation of American people and calm their fears about being hacked or issues with using some new technology, and to kind of lower their fears considering some of the noise we heard from the last election?
Yeah, so the truth is that any voting system you're going to have, you're going to be working with legacy systems and the paper backup for some period of time. So to me, the big move we have to start making is we have to start making it so you have multimodal voting, where people who are comfortable voting on their smartphones, just like beep boop, like done. And then if you're an old person, you want to wait in line, like be our guest. But you pretty much need to keep them both around for a little while, because the other thing is that people would be concerned about not having some kind of hard copy backup.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yeah. So this has been absolutely fantastic chatting with you so far. If the cryptocurrency community would like to get behind what you're working on or find out more of that, how can they best work with you and support you and get the word out about what you're doing?
Well, thanks so much for asking. Just go to yang2020.com. You get a sense of our platform. If you do have some cryptocurrency around that you'd like to donate to the campaign, just go to yang2020.com/crypto, and then you can make a donation there. We could certainly use your help. Those of you who like to create memes, I really want to become the internet candidate. So,
are you doing any memes?
Are
you doing any kind of meme competitions on Instagram or Twitter at all?
We're doing some stuff like that, but we're not as far along. We haven't caught really like the right set of memes as yet. But my team's super optimistic about it, because apparently I'm more memeable than many of the other candidates.
What does that mean?
I mean, one thing is like there's like the Drake God's Plan video where he's just giving money to people, and there's like sticking my head on it, and I'm just like I'm actually giving $1,000 a month personally to a family in New Hampshire that got picked up by CNBC and the rest of it, just to illustrate. Shocker, $1,000 a month will actually help people's lives.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, here's $1,000 a month, and then people are like, is that allowed? And I'm like, apparently. I mean, we checked with the FEC, it is allowed.
Yeah.
And it was so inspiring that a couple in Georgia said that they're going to donate $1,000 a month to another family in South Carolina just to support my campaign, just to show giving people money would actually improve people's lives.
That's amazing.
I know it's incredible. Like, we can really start a movement here that helps open people's eyes to the fact that value can be distributed very, very differently, and that this can be a world of abundance instead of a world of resource scarcity and dog eat dog.
Yeah, well, we certainly talk about scarcity versus abundance. That's something that Yuri and I have both learned a lot about, and we talk about, because we know how important it is that when you're trying to fundraise for a project or raise money as a company and be successful, that you want to create that feeling of abundance and that there's the ability to make things happen rather than being held back because something's getting in the way. So we talk about that all the time, because it's a fundamental thing to run a business or to be successful.
Yeah, guys, I'm a serial entrepreneur. Before this, I started an organization called Venture for America that trained hundreds of entrepreneurs and created thousands of jobs in the Midwest and the South. That's why I know what's going on in the Midwest and the South.
Yeah.
But that's one reason why I vibe so well with your community, is that you all are so entrepreneurial and future-oriented and have that mindset of abundance that's necessary to make any of these positive things happen. And it's one of the things I try and explain to people. It's like, look, if you want people to be entrepreneurial, you can't have them living paycheck to paycheck and freaking out about paying their bills every day. Like, that's not going to lead to like awesome new business formation and creativity. Right. Whereas if you get people's heads up and start thinking, hey, if I build this, then I can make it better and I can get the resources, and like, we've got a great idea. So that's one reason why I love the work you all do in your community so much, because we need to create that mindset in people all around really all around the world.
Yeah, well, I was working in big corporate world, and I left it to do crypto, and I've been independent now for the last 2.5 years, just working, helping companies, advising them with strategy, helping them figure out where they're going with their product roadmaps and all that kind of stuff. And it's an interesting place to live, being, truly entrepreneurial on my own. And we're going to get Yuri to do the same soon too, right, Yuri?
That's right.
Hey, I gotta say, I mean, it's the best thing you'll ever do. It's the hardest thing you'll ever do. It's like
Mm-hmm.
the most growth-inducing thing you'll ever do.
Yeah.
You know, so it's all of those things, but it helps. It helps elevate the human experience in my
For sure.
in my view.
So just
Definitely.
for a moment, we're talking blockchain, but I just want to ask a question because we're here talking about the universal basic income premise. How do you fund it? Because one of the things I listened to one of the podcasts that you were on, and it sounded like you were talking about, I mean, maybe I got this wrong, but you were talking about, the big conglomerates like an Amazon that's taking jobs away and how you might want to perhaps tax them more or create a VAT tax. But what I'm thinking about is how does that work so that it doesn't damage the growth that these potential companies have, and at the same time enable a level playing field for everybody to actually get the universal basic income without it affecting the companies around them?
Yeah, so the VAT I'm recommending is half the European level, which would not meaningfully affect the incentives for automation and innovation. And I talk to techies and entrepreneurs, and they actually say like that's a much better approach than if you were to actually, for example, tax AI or tax like specific things. So like a VAT's more of like a gentle redistribution. And if you look at it, every advanced economy already has one except for the United States.
Right.
So really,
we have sales tax in the U.S. versus a VAT. So would you still retain the local sales tax on each state and then put a national VAT on top of all sales?
Yeah, I mean, as you say, the state tax is very much a state-by-state decision. Some have it, some don't. But keep in mind that all of the money is going straight into the hands of American consumers and is going to go right back into like the hands of businesses around the country, including like the Amazons of the world. So when I talk to CEOs, they find this plan to be much, much more amicable than some of the other things that are being bandied about.
Interesting.
Guys, I've got to run, but
Of course.
thank you for the work that you do. Anyone who wants to follow up with any of this, please do. Just Google Andrew Yang or go to yang2020.com, and let's build a future that we can be proud of together. So keep it up. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank
It's great
you,
to have
Andrew.
you on the show, and we'll look forward to seeing you for perhaps a live episode in one of the caucuses if you'd like.
Oh, yeah, it'd be a lot of fun. Just head to Iowa, New Hampshire. I'll be there.
Perfect.
Right.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you very much for joining us. Hey, and thanks everybody for joining us today on the Coin Chat with Andrew Yang, who's running for president and also a big advocate of blockchain. To the moon. Until next time. Thank you for joining us today on the Coin Chat. Join us on Telegram on t.me/thecoinchat, where we discuss a range of topics on cryptocurrency. And visit us on patreon.com/thecoinchat for show notes, outtakes, and previews of additional content. Or follow us on our website, which is www.thecoinchat.net. And remember to like and subscribe to us on your way out. To the moon. Until next time.